welcome everyone to the presentation of the little hamlet beneath the base of the Blue Mountain. It's great to see all of you here today. Before we get started with our presentations, it's a lengthy program, as you can tell if you have a brochure. We didn't expect this many people here for this event, so I'm sorry if you don't have a program to look at, but I'm sure you do.
Awesome, thank you. Again, my name is Kelly George, and I'm going to be trying to keep it as brief as possible. We have a lot to get through today. So I'm going to be talking about the LaBar family. Here on the screen, I have a picture of George Royal LaBar, and I had notated pioneers of the slate industry, as that was what was the title on his obituary. George Royal LaBar was born in Slatford, New Stroudsford, PA in the year 1804. In 1849, he moved to LaBarsville, which is now Slatedale. The town was named after him. And in connection with his brother Nelson LaBar and Robert Jones, opened the first slate quarry there on the farm of Andrew Kunkel. So the story goes that in 1844, Owen Jones, William Roberts, and Nelson LaBar were searching for slate deposits along the Lehigh River when they discovered a piece of slate along an old slate stage route. And so it was the beginning of the slate industry. In 1848, brothers George and Nelson LaBar opened the Mantle Quarry in Slatedale and also the Lock Quarry in Slatedale, which was the first quarry in Slatedale. The George and Nelson owned a huge bit of land, and hence the town was originally known as LaBarsville. An 1876 map of Slatedale shows the many land interests owned by the LaBars. In later years, Francis Shenton purchased the interest of the LaBars, and that's when the town's name was changed to Slatedale. From 1848 to 1960, there were 160 slate companies operating surrounding the Slatedale area. Excellent. These operations also included the manufacturing of the raw slate. I stumbled upon a book published by Charles Baer, who was doing graduate research project on geology while on the faculty of Lehigh University. His research included an in-depth study of the slate industry in Pennsylvania. His research started in 1923, and the book titled Slate in Pennsylvania was published in 1933. An extensive effort was made to identify the locations and explain the form of each slate quarry, no matter the size. So I found a website that shows aerial photographs, comparisons from 1939 to present day. Just going to have you like just go through the, Yep, just go through. As you'll see, it will indicate, there's going to be the old picture that could have been taken in 1938 or 1939, and then current day. This is an interactive website where you can go in, you can zoom around on the current location to see what's in the area. So I just thought it was very interesting to see the difference. And again, it's also interesting to note that you can still see very slightly some of those quarries. Again, of course, we have a lot of trees and everything that has grown over through time. But again, it was just very interesting that this interactive map is available. So if you're interested, I did put the website address on the slide. You can take a picture of it from your phone to check it out. Again, from that first discovery, it just, left to this booming industry. So to me, it's no wonder that upon his death, the last surviving brother, George Nelson, the headline from the Slatington News stated April 10th, 1897 on page 1 reads, "Pioneer of the Slatington slate industry departs this life." After retiring from the slate business, George made his home with his son-in-law in Columbia, PA. It was there that he died at the age of 92. leaving behind a legacy for the village of LaBarsville and its future generations. Thank you. We will go on to the next presenter.
I'd like to share with you some of the history of James P. Kern's slate factories and slate quarries in the Slatedale area. I had thought I had written on the photo the dates of James P., but I didn't. So he was born, he died in the 1940s. I think he was born in the 1880s, 70 or so odd years. So, and he was born in Slatedale, lived in Slatedale, and died in Slatedale. He was one of many, many children born to Jeremiah Kern, who also spent his whole life at Slatedale. James P. and his wife had 15 children. So any of you guys that think 5, 6, you don't touch it. My records show, or what I found, was that 4 of those died young. So he's still got 11 left. So I always thought at 11 he could either make a baseball team or a quarry company. So he chose the latter, and he chose a quarry company. I put up there on the screen Can you hear me like this?
Yes.
That has no cord, and I'm used to moving around here. I put up on the screen here, well, you see Jeremiah, Sabina, and then James, his wife, is Mary. And those are his children. The first 4 are the ones I think that died young. But out of the 11 that were left, he had of course, a pretty, I don't know what the exact mixture was, it was 6 and 5 or what it was, but boys and girls. And his sons continued living in the Slatedale area and continued having businesses in some cases in the Slatedale area, which I found very, very encouraging. His daughters married in the area, and a lot of people from that and then still stayed in the area. You might see names like Ringer, Merkel, Hopkins, and Trexler. And many of those had descendants that stayed in the area and had businesses in the area. And I was really happy with that because I've done a decent amount of research on slate, mainly in the Slatedale area. But there it so happened that most of the slate, other than the original, most of the slate guys were from Europe. Most of the slate guys came over from Wales, or Scotch-Irish guys, or English people. And they brought their money along, and they leased and then bought the quarry land from the Kerns mainly, and left. Now that's not totally true. There are a few that still stayed. But I'm trying to find descendants of these first European slate people for a museum. And I'm striking out. They just, either they don't have any information or else they don't exist. So I'm very happy that I got to talk about a Pennsylvania Dutchman, a German, because I have Welsh and German ancestors, but my German and Welsh ancestors were in the quarry business, but they were doing the chipping and the punching and the drilling and the grinding. And now we have something to relate to our heritage, to our German heritage, with James P. Kern in the slate business. Now, I may not be right here, so I want any of you Slatedalians to straighten me out. This is right, I'm sure. This is supposedly James P. Kern's home. Driving up, I guess it's now Main Street. Down here is a hotel you drive up, and on the right, just before the church, just before the Salem Methodist Church. That was in the book as being his home. So I go up the street the other day and I said, I want to see what it's like now. But in Slatedale, they tear them down. You know, they don't let them stand too long. But here's one that's still up. And be golly, look what's still there. The fence. I thought that was pretty neat, that that's still standing. If you remember the first picture, it was a fence across the whole front. But that's it. Now, on the old picture, there's no hole behind the fence. Now there is, of course. Who was that, Judy? In the hole right there.
It's a curve.
Marion Schneck. It's in there, but on the original there was. Okay. Quarry location. I have pulled many hair out of my head, and I have so few, but I pulled many out trying to find where quarries really were. In Slatedale and the whole area, they claim there were 100 or so quarries. You can find maybe 10 or 20 if you're lucky, because they got filled in, thrown in, and yet these maps as late as the 1920s show pictures of the quarry and the factory. Oh boy, I would like to go back in time and see them, but it's tough to find them. So here I go. Now I'm looking for James P. Kern's quarry. So I first found this book. I think it might be the same book Kelly was talking about, where they did a geology, the state geology book. So it's pretty up to snuff. And they mentioned and talk about James P. Kern's quarries. They're scattered. They say, first of all, this map won't, I know you're too far away and it's hard, but this is Brown Street going up to the cemetery. And right here is a quarry called the Royal Blue on the left. I think that's the one they filled in. I'm not sure of that, but I think that might be. But they say this geology map says James P. worked this quarry, and they went up, what is that, Deer Road or Deer Street, and up in the back there, is that where Normie Bose lived? They claim that those quarries up there he ran. Okay. They also claim in this survey that he had a quarry in Rextown. And there is one big one in the back behind Little Bucks there, so I'm assuming. And this survey said that he had a factory at the bottom of the Emerald Hill before you go up to Slatedale on the right. So they say, of course, you can't go there and prove it or disprove it, but then I found in the book, there's a book around. I call it the Bible History of Slatedale. I don't have a copy of it. Yeah, I do have a copy. I don't know where it is.
It's right actually over there on the bar.
Where? Yeah, that's a guy. That's our guy. I have a lot of history books on my shelf, but that is one of the best ones. It was done by Sidney Snyder and by Brenda Blows, and I understand that Christy Hayes helped out with that. But anyway, in that book, they say, this is here, and you can't see it, I didn't read it. These quarries here, and old means open, and the ones that weren't open, they put a Q on them. So these two back here, they say, James Kern Quarry. Oh, okay, that's news to me. You know, none of that came up before. So I stopped up at the conversation spot in Slatedale, Kistler's Garage, and I figured I saw it. If I want to know something, I better stop up there, because that's where I'm at. So I stopped up there, heard from a couple of I call them the chairman of the board up there, they're sitting there pestering a lot, but anyway, and I said, what's this all about? Well, yeah, you can go up across the street from the church, from the Lutheran church, in the parking lot, and go back up Gurman Alley, and just keep going straight up in the woods, and you'll see those quarries. Oh, okay, that sounds cool. But then I thought, well, maybe I better find out who owns those. You know, they don't take a pot shot at it. So I logged around, and it used to be Lawrence German, and then right now it's Harry Herb. So I called Harry. Yeah. She says, we own that land up at the edge there where the quarries are. And she said, I remember as a girl who took the wagon up, and boy, you looked down off the side of the wagon and you thought, oh, I hope you don't swerve or bump. She said, because there was a bad drop there. Now she told me this before I went up, and I just wanted to show you that she wasn't following my leg. It's a narrow driveway path that goes up in there, and there are quarries, deep ones, very not big, but smaller quarry. There is one large size one up there, and that, if you look off to the right, there is a big one. And I think that was part of the Shenton paying thing. They told me, Pete told me years ago they didn't use that one. Right, that's a biggie. That's a big lake up there. Okay, so that's where this book and this map says that his quarries were. Now, what do we got next? Okay, that's a picture of the view southwest from quarries, wherever in Slatedale, wherever in James Curtis quarries. What do we got next? There we go. This, they're moving James Kern's office. Don't ask me, on Mill Street. Help me out, where was it? Was that down around the back, Mill Street? So it says there, it was on Mill Street. Who remembers it? Anybody? You saw that office? Where, at the ball field or here? At the ball field, yeah, okay. Well, that's the next step. They moved it to the baseball field for a refreshment stand. And says there, Wesley D. Long called it. Okay.
Advertisement. A couple advertisements.
There's not much I can say, they're just ads to buy Slate. Hey, he also had a store, and I don't think anybody's talking about the store. He had his hands in a lot of stuff. I read the article that he had a store, and they like to come there for their ice cream, etc., etc. Okay, what's next? Okay, here, I'm going to read this. Mr. Kern's equipment included 2 mills, one for trimming and rough dressing, and one for finishing, which produced structural, electrical, roofing, and some school slates. James Kern employed about 27 men. Wages in 1931-5 raised from 25 cents to 45 cents. Big bucks, big bucks. This one gets me. Where is Cindy? This one gets me every time I read it. It says, having a great concern for his employees, he advanced their wages if they asked him. I always got a kick out of that one. No wonder he had to shut down. Is that true? Back in the 40s, James P. Kern, his driver, his son Carl Kern, and Louis Stewart were delivering a truckload of slate. On the way home, the truck was demolished in an accident, and the occupants were uninjured. At that time, the decision was made that the company would be closed due to the accident and the dwindling demand for slate. Now, here's a biggie. Now it's a biggie. You're going to be part of, I'm glad we have such a big crowd to be part of this first. You're going to be the first to see a film of a slate factory, slate quarry in operation in our area, in Slatedale, in James P. Kern's quarry. I know of no other video or film of a local slate operation. There are 2 very short videos on YouTube for big bag. They're 10 seconds each if you want to go to the quarry. But this is a 10-minute film of the work going on there. And I've searched as long as I've been interested in history to find some record. There's a lot of pictures around, but I've never seen a film. I mean, you can go on YouTube, you can find films from Wales and Scotland and all this and that, but none of our area. So, a first for a first viewing of a first film of local slate.
Good job.
There's no audio. There he is.
It's still playing.
I said 10 minutes, not 20.
It's playing. I don't know. It's frozen. There you go.
Oh, man, well, labor.
Safety first. Call it slate.
Anybody ever ride any of those guys? Did you? He looks like he's a worker that rode him. I rode him as a guest one time up at Penn.
Many times. There's all the drunk guy running. I'm telling you the truth. We used to call them Colossus thing. I'm telling you the truth. Mickey Wutak is sitting there all
A bunch of happy workers though, aren't they? Though? Wow. All smiles.
I landed many of those.
Did you work there?
I put them on the truck and the freaking truck and do wheelies after when you get people to sit on the hood so I can back it up. Yeah, I worked.
Yeah, we used to climb down the ropes and everything in the corners.
Sure.
Hang over them, climb back up.
I used to throw up the dare to grease them. I'm afraid you'll get 6 foot off the ground.
You know it.
Yeah, if only there, some of that would be around yet that you could see. I mean, it would be some historic value.
That looks like the one down.
Great trader.
There's the guy running the green. Where's his quarter bit? There we go, that one's going with table saw. I know all this stuff.
We all know slate splits very easily. That's one of the advantages of it. That's what that gentleman's doing there.
There he is, he's punching holes.
Did you run that machine?
He's chopping it
He's
off,
chopping them off.
off the sides and then you punch holes.
And then the hole
Yeah.
punching comes up next.
Yeah. Many times.
And that's unique with slate because most asbestos machines you hammer nails in it. Here you put the holes in first so you can hammer it right through. You don't have to hammer through and bust the slate.
There was one down in Welchtown between the quarries. I worked out there for a couple of years.
Who knows, these guys may be your ancestors for all you know if you're from the area. I imagine they're workers from the Slatedale area.
Oh, no, okay.
While the film's stalling, she's gonna tell you in here, the creator of this film, she's gonna tell you, but the father of this gal, Linda Yoder, he took the films. Here it is. I don't know why. There was sound for mine for this, but anyway. The only place they showed this film, as Linda Yoder said, whose grandfather, Walter Risley, was in her scout troop one time. So they called me her cousin and Betsy Rock's cousin, John Howard, went to school with me, a doctor, called me last year and said, can you do some research for your committee on our great-grandfather, J.C. Kirk? And I said, yeah, sure will. But anyway, that led to this. They said, oh, they have this film, and they want to show it to the public on YouTube, but they like to put it on here first. So well, that's great. I said, we're going to celebrate Slatedale businesses next year. Well, that's how we got the film. She and John Howard supplied it to the committee. $123, 2 years ago.
That's it.
That's it. Okay, so it's long, and I'm sorry, George, but not that time. But I just think it's so important. We finally have something in our Slate area that we can, you know, the kids or grandkids say, well, what was that Slate thing all about? Well, look at the picture. Well, pictures only go so far. Now, if this is on YouTube, you click it in, you can say, that's what happened in the Slate area. Okay, next.
You're up, Kelly. Okay.
Alrighty, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So the next topic will be the Penn Big Bed Slate Company. So America in 1929 was a very tumultuous time, as that was the start of the Great Depression. Driven by the desire to provide economic security to his family, Father Jacob Pape, along with his sons John, Thomas, Stephen, and Michael, and son-in-law Stephen Babiak, started the Pape and Babiak slate quarries in 1934. They operated quarries in Lehigh Gap and Burnsville before leasing land in Slatedale in 1944. They purchased a quarry from the Shenton family in Slatedale, and it soon became the Penn Big Slate Company. The rest, they will say, is history. I will read an article with some excerpts from an article posted in the Times News, published August 1st, 2012, by Terry Arner, who interviewed Pete Pape Sr., who was then the president of the Penn Big Slate Company.
Sorry.
And again, this was they received an award for the, this was in 2012. So I'm just going to quote some things from the article. I'm not going to read the whole article. It's available online on Times News. So as quoted by Pete, Jake, Steve Babiak, and John Pape had their experience from working in other quarries. They started by paying royalty to work quarries that were owned by other families. When they had enough money, manpower, and guts, they bought one of the first quarry sites from the Shenton family, which had been opened in 1845, right where it's located today. They bought it from the Shenton family, as LeBar and Shenton were two of the early quarrymen that had picked Slatedale to be home. And again, we had just talked about them previously, the LeBar family. Over the years, the company has supplied many jobs with its PA gray slate. Part of the company is in many schools and colleges all over the country. From their roof slate, blacktops, and floor tile to lab countertops, wall cladding, treads, and risers, as their slate is well known to the architects. We supplied famous people in institutions from Jackie Gleason in older days to several well-known movie stars of today, to well-known places like Ellis Island and West Point, Pape said. With a laugh, he said, if we had degrees from all of them, we would be masters and doctors, Pape said. The goal is to continue making slate products with the same quality and hand craftsmanship that made us the last survivor in our state. Our Pennsylvania Big Bed Slate that we are named for is prominent and known around the world. Now, in another article from 2016 and found on the website, Penn Big Bed, the Delta Slate Company, titled Last Man Standing, In the quarry, and again, quoted from this article, just again, an excerpt. In the quarry, the years rolled by. The older generation gave way to the next. Some tragically lost their lives in quarry accident as Pete's Uncle Mike. Some stayed on as listeners or to give moral support. Penn Big, at its height, supported 76 employees, often friends and family working alongside each other. In 1959, the giant Chapman Quarry shut down, and one of the Lehigh quarries followed suit, overwhelmed by the dangers and expense of production. So in 2005, John Daly and the Penn Argo Quarry merged with Penn Big Bed, leaving them the sole survivors of the 160 quarries and its operations from the century before. In 2010, a catastrophe struck. Hurricane Earl swept through the region and filled Penn Big Bed's main quarry, burying slate machinery in 275 feet of mud and water. The quarry was abandoned. 60 men were laid off. Work moved to a new bed, years away from production. So now I'll just get on to something personal from my family, not in the history books. My father-in-law, Bruce George, was friends with the Babiak family. And I thought it was interesting because he had a very enterprising spirit and a desire to help fellow men. Working at Mack Trucks, at the company, they would receive their pre-assembled parts to the factory in big, huge wooden crates. These crates were of no use to Mack Trucks, so they were paying for laborers to, disassemble and throw them away. When he was talking to Tommy Pape was talking, wow, it's so expensive to buy all the lumber to crate up their slate to ship it across the country. And there you go, a deal was made. Penn Big Bed would go and get these crates from Mack Trucks, and then they could use them for their needs. And another funny story that he had told us is that, again, the truck seats for the trucks. If they would come in and there was any kind of mar or defect on the seat, obviously they could not be put in one of those trucks. So they would get thrown away. Once again, Bruce George thought, hey, I've seen those quarrymen sitting there splitting out slate stones on those wooden, uncomfortable chairs. Why don't you take one of these Mack truck seats that are much more comfortable? And again, a deal was made. 2019, Penn Big Bed was acquired by Delta Slate Company. Tim, earlier this year, visited Penn Big Bed. And again, there's no slate mine there today. Instead, they're just manufacturing some raw product from some of the nearby quarries. Recently, our committee members had the pleasure of meeting Michael Pape. He, like many of his family members and like many of you here, worked in the quarry starting at the young age of 13. He told us he got paid a whopping 50 cents an hour. He spent his summers working there until the age of 21. He talked about the hard working conditions, carrying hard buckets in 95 degrees. Of course, I asked him, did he get to cool off in the quarry? And he said, yes. But again, he wasn't trespassing. Mike also commented on those cars that you saw where they would go down into the pits. And again, I know some of you thought it was fun to ride in them or hang on to cables. Mike is left with a fear of heights after his days. After his father's passing, Mike did serve on the board of directors. And pictured here, I just have some of the donations that we were so honored. Mike sought out our organization, and he entrusted us to care for and display the donations of these slate products. Now, some of these may not have been manufactured in Slatedale. A lot of them came from the National Slate Company. But these items, along with the gift of the slate covering at the covered bridge, the efforts in establishing the D&L trail, will be enjoyed for many generations to come. Now, I have a close-up picture on the very end. Oh, go back one. And I just thought it was very funny because there is the little wooden knob where you would turn to push the paper through on the
On the top here.
yes, yes. So yeah, and if you go over to the right side at the end there, Mike. So he would assemble those knobs right there, yeah. And he told me that he got paid an extra 50 cents if he filled the whole barrel. So again, I just thought that was really funny to know. And that's it. We will go on to our next speaker. Oh, I'm sorry, one little nod to my dad. My dad's a Chevy man, he's in the back there, so that is actually from the Galley Slate Quarry in Penn Argyle from 1975. So again, I just had to put that nice Chevy truck on the slate bed for my dad.
Now I got it. All right, next we're going to be talking about the hotels in Slatedale. And before I begin my remarks, let me preface it by saying I'm from Slatington, grew up in Slatington, did not grow up in Slatedale, so I hope I have most of the information correct. If I don't, be gentle. Slatedale's first hotel was opened in 1851 by Thomas Brensinger and George Krause. Brensinger was a carpenter and very well could have built the hotel. Brensinger owned the hotel for 9 years between 1851 and 1860 before selling it to Levi Krause, not to be confused with Levi Strauss and his jeans. Levi owned the hotel for 3 years. William Krause was a miller by trade and was the next owner of the hotel and ran it for 2 years until selling it to John Lewis, who operated the business for 32 years, from 1865 to 1897. After the death of Lewis, his family sold the business to Aaron Worley. Afterward, the hotel became known as Worley's Hotel, which you see a picture of there. Aaron lived from 1857 to 1926 and died at the age of 68. The hotel contained 22 rooms, and the bar and dining room were on the first floor. To the left of the hotel were the living quarters for the Worley family. Behind the hotel were stables that provided room for hotel patrons' horses and wagons. The hotel remained in the Worley family for 60 years, of which Aaron and his wife Louisa operated the business until 1917. Next, their son Elmer and his wife Catherine ran the hotel for 38 years until 1955, when Elmer died, interestingly enough at the same age as his father, 68 years old. Elmer's son Clark and his wife Marion operated the hotel for only 2 years, as Clark died in July of 1957. The hotel became known as the Slatedale Tavern when it was sold to Lloyd and Edna Robb in 1957. Lloyd Robb, curiously, was also a proprietor of several other regional hotels. These included Linport Hotel, 1948 to 1952, and Shorty's Cellaret Kutztown, 1971 to 72. In addition, he was a service manager at the former Jack Dankel Chevrolet in Allentown for 38 years until he retired in 1970. In 1971, the hotel was sold to Edgar and Mary Weaver, then to Willard and Ruth Weaver, who ran the business from 1979 to 85. Willard Weaver graduated Slatington High School in 1950 and began a long and successful career in furniture retailing, which spanned 35 years. Always one to seek out new adventures, Willard exercised his entrepreneurial spirit through the years via startup ventures, including an insurance agency, hotel ownership, and hardware merchandising. He was also a founding member and past president of the Slatedale Ambulance Corps, as well as a lifetime member of the Slatedale Fire Company. He died at the age of 85 in April of 2018. His wife, Ruth, was also very active and noteworthy. Ruth was employed as the executive secretary for the vice president of finance at Mack Trucks until the birth of her daughter, Linda Sue. Later, she resumed her career with Kern's Furniture Store and Citizens National Bank of Slatington. In 1977, Ruth assumed the position of postmaster for the village of Slatedale, which she held until her retirement in 1992. The final owner of this hotel was Nancy K. Boyer from 1988 to 1990. Afterward, Roy Crum purchased a building and decided to make the building into apartments, but he died before the project could be finished. Greg and Pam Fink bought the building in 1991 and finished what Crum started, and today it houses 4 apartments. Next, we have Slatedale House. Slatedale's second hotel was first known simply as Slatedale House and was owned by Louis Fink. The hotel opened in Fink's house by J.E. Balliet, its first leaser, after obtaining a liquor license in 1881. The property was later sold to Fred Horlocker of Slatington, as many of you know, owned a bottling works in Slatington just down the road here. Horlocker owned the business for 24 years. The building was destroyed by fire in 1907 and replaced with a 3-story brick building. Following its reopening, several individuals leased the property and included Forn and Ham, Wilson Groover, and Robert Wesley Breyfogle. The Slatedale House was at the end of the line for the Lehigh Valley Traction Company's trolley, which you'll hear about a little later. And at one time in the 1920s, the hotel was called the Cowboy Inn. Legend has it that horses walked directly into the hotel and drank beer at the bar with their riders. Now, it took some digging, but I was able to find a picture. Next slide, please. No, that's Cowboy Inn. You can see the logo there. Next slide.
There we go.
Now, I haven't been able to authenticate the photo, but it looks pretty accurate to me. Around 1930, the business was bought by Russell Balliet, and he ran the hotel for 45 years until his death in 1975. Food was cooked and served by his wife Esther for patrons, as well as for women working in the nearby silk mill. She cooked potato salad, barbecues, hamburgers, and baked beans. Banquets were held on the second floor, which had a temporary bar and kitchen. The hotel also had a pool table, shuffleboard, and tables for people to come play cards. Old Dutch brand beer.
I'm slow.
That's all right.
There they are at the.
That's some people.
Dutch brand.
There's a. Old Dutch brand beer was the beer of choice at the Slatedale House. It was made in Catasauqua, and it cost 25 cents back in the day, with Bavarian and Budweiser costing 30 cents a bottle. So you can see why they chose Old Dutch. Over the years, some of the bartenders included Albert Brobst, Slim Krause, and Art Steckel. The bar at times had a reputation for loud music, good times, and late nights. Balliet's son Robert and his wife Madeline ran the business until it was eventually sold to Stephen and Carol Eitner. In the 1980s, James Yezik and James Mello owned the hotel. It was known as the Bottom Floor and Mello Inn during this time. As I just mentioned about the bar's reputation, in the 1980s, if anybody remembers, the place was known as a sort of a rough place with fights and illegal drug activity. And the place was anything but mellow, if you see what I did there. Following the hotel's drug and legal troubles, Thomas and Lynette Robb bought the property and ran a welding business on the first floor called Torco, while converting the upper floor into apartments. Yep.